What would you be willing to do to your body to show others who you are? Would you deform your shoulders with heavy brass rings? Or endure a tattoo that covers your entire body? Or have your flesh seared with a painful brand? How far would you go to mark your identity? For thousands of years, people have marked their bodies to let others know who they are, to announce their tribe, their status, or what group they belong to.
Modifying the body is a part of being human. It's a part of establishing culture. I don't think there are any cultures that have not modified the body.
But markings that are normal for some, others may see as extreme. Bondage or beauty? Imprisonment or identity? Westerners associate shackles with suffering, but one tribe in Asia considers these bonds of brass an essential mark of their identity. Would you endure pain and deformity to signal your identity to the world? In northwest Thailand, close to the Burmese border, lies a refugee camp. It harbors an unusual tribe, the last standard bearers of an extreme mark of identity. Stretched necks and shackled limbs define these women as Padang. For centuries, the Padang women have carried the tribe's mark, the collar known as Wang. 48-year-old Manang works to ensure the tradition will continue. She's the village expert at binding women in rings of brass.
When people see that you do it well, they come to you and ask you to put it on for them. Now, I've put it on many people, hundreds.
But each of them began the painful process as a girl, when her bones were small and flexible. Even on the young, however, the coils chafe. Today, 26-year-old Mabang has brought her young cousin to see the village expert. The child has been complaining of a sore neck. Manang will remove the girl's collar to examine the skin.
Sometimes the kids get really sick or scratch because they are allergic to the brass. Then they have to go to the doctor. Some are not that bad and heal on their own. But there are also some who just scratch because they don't like it.
The little girl's skin has deep contusions. Manang says the bruises are nothing serious, but instructs Mabang to gently wash the damaged skin. In Western society, many would be horrified at what these women encourage children to endure. But such deformities are not limited to the Padang. For centuries, cultures around the world have modified their bodies in extreme ways to achieve standards of beauty uniquely their own. Would you scar the faces of your children? Or file the teeth of young women? Would you bind women's feet so they could hardly walk? Would you twist children's teeth in bands of metal? Or recast faces with a surgeon's knife? Beauty and identity are in the eye of the beholder. Carolyn Marvin is a professor of communication at the University of Pennsylvania.
We all modify our bodies, but we consider natural the deformations that we do in our own culture, and we notice it when we encounter it in cultures that have different practices of modifying and deforming.
For Mabang's cousin, freedom from the Huang is fleeting, and she soon resumes the painful process practiced by her tribeswomen.
I first wore the neck ring when I was 5. I only wore very few. In the beginning, it hurt, but as I wore it longer, I got used to it, and it was able to stretch my neck and wear more rings.
Manang carefully recoils the necklace around the little girl's bruised skin. To achieve the stretched neck look of her elders, she'll have to return every few years to have more coils added. The collar continues to hurt, but for Padang girls, pain is a requirement of belonging. Later today, it will be Mabang's turn to have her own coils refitted, and she'll see her neck for the first time in more than 10 years. How will she react? And without her collar, who will she be? The long neck look is actually an illusion.
When you wear the rings, it is not your neck that gets longer. It is your shoulders that gets pushed down and lowered.
As the coil grows, its pressure pushes down on the shoulders and chest. The rib cage caves like a squeezed balloon, and the neck appears to rise higher from the collapsed collarbones. The intentional deformation might seem masochistic to outsiders, but to the Padang, the Huang is the signature mark of a tribeswoman.
I am Padwang, and wherever we go, people can see it and identify us as the Padwang tribe. From my grandmother to my great-grandmother, everyone wore them, and have always worn them.
Before Mabang returns, Manang has a few hours to tend to her own rings of brass. For Manang, the coils are like a second skin. She hasn't seen her own neck in decades.
The collar is permanent. Even if someone asks me to take it off now, I won't. I have to wear it. It is like part of my body, like an arm or a leg. I cannot not wear it. If I don't wear it, I won't look like a human anymore. I'll look like a ghost. I would look very funny.
Coming up, Mabang sees her neck for the first time in a decade. And later, encounter the full-body tattoos of the Japanese underworld and meet people willing to sear their flesh with a brand. It's said the Padang tradition of long-necked women began centuries ago. Fearful of outsiders stealing Padang brides, the tribe came up with a radical solution: make the girls attractive to only their own kind. They used coils to stretch their women's necks and cuffs to bind their limbs, deliberately disfiguring them. The taboo mark unified the Padang and set them apart from others. Because Padang men preferred to marry women with coils, the Huang became a self-perpetuating practice.
You put the necklace on to make sure that you can stay here with your tribe and family, so that your children and grandchildren won't go and marry outside the tribe and leave you.
I am going to stay here and marry a long-necked woman. I want to have a wife who wears the collar.
But the extreme practice that identified them as Padang also marked them for persecution in their homeland of Burma, now called Myanmar. In 1962, the military seized control of the country, promising modernization. The new leaders cracked down on tribes deemed primitive, and tribal customs, including the Huang, were outlawed. To maintain their identity and escape civil war, Manang and others fled to the neighboring country of Thailand.
We walked to Tanakwai and then came down to the border area, near Karyang and Thailand. It took us 5 days to get here, and now I live here.
Although safe from war, the tribe is now caught between two countries and two worlds. Housed in refugee camps, the Padang have drawn crowds of Western tourists who travel to witness their ancient ways. Unexpectedly, what was once a persecuted mark of identity is now a profitable way to make a living. 21-year-old Maja fled Burma 10 years ago. She finds that being an object of curiosity isn't always easy.
Does it feel heavy?
And how do you manage to sleep with it? And how do you keep them clean?
In coming here to live in Thailand, sometimes it's like we are animals in a zoo, but we don't have a choice. If we had a choice, we would have our freedom in our country, like we do here in Thailand.
Long separated from the modern world, the Padang must now interact with foreigners every day. Visitors often challenge their ways.
I'm asking myself if they're doing it because they have to, or if they want to do it. You know, I saw a little girl, and I don't think that anyone asked her if it's comfortable to her or not. In my culture, I can choose what I want and what I don't want.
In response to criticism, the Padang say that what's normal is in the eye of the beholder.
The tourists already think that we're a bit strange, and they come here to look at us. We think that we are normal. If we took on their mentality, then we can also think the same thing about them, that they are strange as well.
When we say that another culture is going to special lengths to mark their identity, we're saying that those aren't the lengths that we go to. But we have to remember that in our own culture, we also go to lengths in bodily terms to express our identity. These include facelifts and liposuction and breast enhancement and braces. All of these kinds of things are efforts at body modification that we consider desirable.
Still, the questions of outsiders have led a few Padang women to wonder, how would they look without the Huang? Would they still be Padang? Mabang will have the opportunity to find out. It's time for her refitting. It will take close to an hour of pulling at the brass before the rings can be lifted from Mabang's shoulders. She will have to be careful, though. Folklore says a woman's neck, long supported, can break if the collar is removed.
Mabang's afraid the bones might break. You are used to your neck being in a certain position with the neck rings on. Then, when they're not there, you get a little lightheaded and dizzy sometimes.
Finally, after more than a decade, the rings come off. Mabang is astonished at how light she feels. She only speaks the Burmese dialect, so Maja helps her express her feelings.
Well, we never get to see what the neck looks like, so we want to have a look and see how it turned out.
For outsiders, it's incredible to imagine never seeing one's own neck. For Mabang, it's a transformative experience.
She wants to dress up in regular clothes and let her hair down and see if she will look pretty.
With the mark of her culture removed, Mabang has at once shed one identity and taken on another. For Maja, the sight of her altered cousin is as strange a spectacle as the coiled necks are for tourists.
She wears the rings every day, and she doesn't get to wear regular clothes. So today, she's trying it to see what it's like. That's why she wants these pictures, as a keepsake.
As excited as she was to try on a new identity, Mabang eagerly returns to her old one, even though it may be years, even decades, before she sees her neck again.
She says this is our tradition, so it does not feel strange.
For Mabang, the embrace of coiled metal offers a passage back to who she is, not a restriction on who she might be. As refugees, the Padang have endured much to preserve their culture and their custom. Today, these rings of brass represent one tribe's commitment to a future that does not sacrifice its past. Most marks of identity are designed to be seen, clear signs that proclaim the identity of the wearer to others. But there are some marks, even elaborate ones, that are meant to be hidden, revealed only to intimates and to fellow wearers of the mark. In Japan, there's an art form that by any standard would be considered extreme, where the paintbrush is made of 24 needles, and the canvas is human flesh. Every inch of flesh, from your wrists to your ankles. It's called horimono, Japanese full-body tattoo. For some, it's an obsession.
Once you get the feeling of the moment, you will never be able to give it up.
But for most in Japan, it has a sordid reputation.
Tattoo? I hate tattoo.
When I see a person who has a tattoo, I want to be far away from the person.
It's lowlife. Whoever is doing it.
These full-body masterpieces can cost tens of thousands of dollars and a lifetime of suffering to complete.
It is painful, very painful. I can feel the needle going in and in and in.
But for all that's endured to get one, these tattoos are usually hidden.
When I go to the beach, I wear a jacket or shirt to go into the water.
Why go to all that pain and suffering for something few others will ever see? Because showing it can identify you as one of the most notorious and feared members of Japanese society. They're called Yakuza, the gangsters of Japan. They inhabit a world of drug running, prostitution, extortion, and other crimes. In this realm, horimono is a mark of belonging. As a result, most Japanese view horimono as a symbol of the mob, unfit for public display. But one man is on a mission to change all that. Eiji Ruzuki is a renowned horimono master, known by the artist name Horikoi. In his studio in Toyohashi City, 150 miles southwest of Tokyo, he sees 4 or 5 clients a day, all seeking extreme ink. For Horikoi, horimono isn't just an occupation, it's a passion.
The particular moment you put the needle into the skin, a very spiritual and invisible force rushes through my body.
His goal is to reverse the taboos that have given tattoos such a bad name.
In the newspaper or news these days, a tattoo only stirs up bad images. Even though a person has tattoos, he is not a criminal.
It's very easy to be marked as different in Japan. The least thing can say, that person is on the wrong side of things.
Mary White is a professor of anthropology at Boston University.
One of the things that tattoos do, because they're permanent, is to put that person on the other side in a very, very serious way.
Ironically, Horikoi credits Japanese tattoo with saving him from the very life of crime many associate with it.
Before I became a tattoo artist, I was a member of a motorcycle gang. I was fighting day after day and doing drugs. But one day, my friend asked me to do tattoo. And I discovered the spiritual force. And wow, that was it.
Horikoi uses a time-honored design that allows wearers to keep their ink hidden under their clothes. These suits of tattoo are left bare in strategic places. Hands, feet, and center of the chest. But while others may hide their tattoos, Horikoi prefers to go sleeveless.
I don't personally care about hiding it at all. What you see is what you get.
Horikoi has already earned a reputation as one of today's great horimono masters. But to hone his skills even further, he has sought out a living legend, Horiyoshi III. He's a grand master in a world-famous lineage of horimono greats, all of whom have tattooed under the celebrated artist's name, Horiyoshi. His latest work in progress is Horikoi. He began as an apprentice over 30 years ago and has been putting needle to flesh ever since.
The reason I chose this is because I thought that it's the most difficult thing to do. To create something on someone's body. Out of everyone that creates things, the only one that has a living thing as its canvas is tattoo artists.
While under the needle, Horikoi absorbs the knowledge that has been passed on by the Horiyoshi name for generations.
I pursued Mr. Horiyoshi, and he would tell me about other tattoo artists, or talk about what it means to be a tattoo artist, and I learned his way and incorporated what I could use.
Like all horimono, Horikoi's masterpiece is one of a kind. Each of its images has a personal meaning for him, identifying Horikoi even after death.
When people die, their life is over after the funeral. With a tattoo, it doesn't die with the funeral. In that one skin, Horikoi's entire life is there. That's what horimono is about.
Horiyoshi and Horikoi's bond is steeped in an ancient honor code held by Japanese warriors.
He has some similarities with me. In short, there's the word called samurai in Japanese. He's a samurai.
there's a definite connection to the samurai with a tattoo.
Takahiro Kitamura is a tattoo artist and author of books about horimono.
The samurai ethic was composed of bravery, endurance, fortitude. This translates well into tattooing. When you see somebody with a full bodysuit, you know that they've endured a lot of hours of pain for that, and they've earned that. So in some ways, in certain communities, that becomes a badge of honor.
It's no surprise that samurai make a fierce showing in so many designs. Most horimono is based on legendary warriors and heroes, whose tales have symbolic meaning for the wearer. The images are typically drawn from classic Japanese woodblock prints. But tattoos weren't always a matter of personal aesthetics. Hundreds of years ago, Japanese authorities gave tattoos to criminals as a form of punishment. Normally applied to the arms and forehead, these tattoos allowed the public to identify and ostracize wearers. But by the end of the 17th century, outlaws were hiding these tattoos with decorative patterns, some of which are still used today.
Historically, people who had been in prison were marked with a tattoo, and these became something for the criminal to show off, to swagger with. And a full-body tattoo gradually emerged as the elaboration of that stigmatizing tattoo.
Some believe that the covering of penal tattoos was the beginning of the notorious link between organized crime and horimono. Coming up, meet the Yakuza gangsters who've given tattoo an unsavory reputation. And later, would you endure burning a brand into your flesh just to express who you are? Enter the underworld of Japan. These men's faces must be concealed because they are members of the Yakuza. Akin to the American Mafia, they operate under a strict hierarchy of crime bosses and underlings, in which Yakuza minions pay dearly for mistakes. A gangster who fails his boss must often atone by cutting off his own pinky. Horikoi doesn't discriminate when it comes to horimono. Many mobsters have passed through his studio.
Although the Yakuza have a strong basis in violence, they aren't violent all the time.
An estimated 70% of all Yakuza bear the mark of horimono. Full-body tattoo has been said to appeal to Yakuza members because it takes years of suffering to endure, which provides evidence of loyalty to the group.
Someone who stops in the middle of tattoo is the kind of person that stops other things in the middle.
The man this Yakuza answers to, the mob boss, agrees.
Living in the world of Yakuza is similar to living in the world of samurai. To endure the pain of getting tattoos, you learn to be patient. It became part of our creed.
Despite its long association with the criminal element, tattoo is now finding its way into mainstream society. Takahiro Kimura would never dream of displaying his body art. As a school administrator, it's critical that he keep it hidden.
It could be a reason to get fired if a person goes to work and shows his tattoos.
Most people would never guess his secret.
I don't think my students have found out about this yet.
It's a tall task for Mr. Kimura to hide all of his tattoos, because he has taken his body art beyond traditional horimono. He doesn't just cover up with long pants and Oxford shirts. He has precious little space left for more ink, because 99% of his body is tattooed.
For me, what should I say? Tattoo is my soul.
Until his tattoos are accepted by society, Mr. Kimura will continue to conceal them. But Horikoi believes that the best way to change this prejudice is to take it on in the flesh. Once a month, he organizes an unusual performance at a local bar, exposing the public to an eclectic mix of karaoke, Japanese tradition, and horimono. It's a chance to redefine the meaning of the maligned mark.
When I sing karaoke, I sing Japanese ballads to feel the samurai spirit and the honor associated with it. I especially like songs that tell stories about tattoos.
By putting the spotlight on horimono, Horikoi hopes to remove the stigma that has clung to it for so long.
It would be very nice to eliminate that prejudice.
His efforts may already be working. Publications that present tattoos in a positive way are on the rise across the country. Ever more people are turning to Horikoi to transform their bodies into living art.
Tattoos are becoming a little more accepted. There's younger generation Japanese now that are realizing, wait, not all tattoos are associated with, for instance, the Yakuza. I could get a tattoo and just have it as an art form or just for fun. At its best, the Japanese tattoo is more than art. It's transcended art to become culture.
This is my life and my style. I hope that people that understand this join me, and I will join them.
There are places where tattoo wearers meet with less social stigma than in Japan. In America, for example, elaborate tattoos, even piercings, are already old hat.
I like it.
If you want to stay on the edge of the body mod culture, you have to go further, to a mark considerably more radical and painful than tattoo. More and more in North America, young people are not content just to get pierced or tattooed. They want to make a personal statement in scars. They're getting their flesh burned with searing hot metal. They're getting branded. Until yesterday, 20-year-old Tyler Ballantyne had never set foot in New York City. But Tyler has not really come to see the sights. He's in New York for just one reason: to get a brand.
I'm more nervous about being in New York than getting branded, to be honest. You hear all the stories of muggings, murders, other stuff that happens, and when you're just like a little vegetarian Canadian kid who's coming down here, you don't know what to expect.
At home, in Toronto, Canada, Tyler works as a professional body piercer. So far, he has pierced himself 16 times, including the holes he has stretched in his earlobes.
I like the feeling of getting pierced. When I get really stressed out or something, my head's just building up. A piercing will relax me.
Tyler's even gone so far as to split his own tongue. Why would anyone do such a thing? Tyler insists his reasons are very personal. But the truth is, he's not alone. He's part of a growing subculture in North America that its devotees call body modification. Body modifiers like to experiment with extreme ways to decorate and even reshape their bodies. From tattoos to scarification to implanting objects under their skin.
When we modify our bodies in ways that are abnormal or socially unacceptable, we are really sending a message to the broader culture that we don't want to belong in the ordinary sense.
Victoria Pitts is a professor of sociology at Queen's College.
So that makes branding very appealing to groups of people who are trying to establish a sense of difference.
Body modifiers admit much of what sets them apart is dangerous and excruciatingly painful. But nothing, they say, feels or smells like having your skin melted away with burning hot steel. For his brand, Tyler has turned to Brian Decker, a fellow body modifier.
I do a couple a month. It's not a huge thing because the still culture is just growing now and people are just learning to understand it a little bit more.
Come on.
This arm?
Yeah.
How low do you want to go?
Starting from about halfway.
Tyler has designed his brand himself.
Yeah, that looks good to me.
To Tyler, it represents freedom. Specifically, his freedom to modify his body any way he wants. It's the complete opposite of what a brand has traditionally signified. For centuries, ranchers have used brands to mark their cattle. Slave traders branded their captives. Later, African American fraternity members adopted the practice.
Branding is a mark of disaffection precisely because of its historical link to slavery. Perhaps what's going on here is that there is an affirmation of self-ownership of the body. In other words, I can do this quite rebellious practice that might have been once done to me. I can do it myself to declare my own sense of ownership over myself.
Unlike branders of the past, however, Brian will burn Tyler's arm inch by inch. It will take several hours.
If I was him right now in this circumstance, I'd definitely be nervous.
And Tyler knows there's a very real chance he may simply not be able to take it.
I don't know what's coming. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how it's going to affect me.
Coming up, can Tyler take the pain of a brand heated to 1,000 degrees? By law, Brian cannot offer Tyler an anesthetic. His only tools are a wedge of stainless steel, a vice grip, and a blowtorch.
Tell me when you're ready.
From the first strike, the pain is excruciating. Heated to at least 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the steel instantly vaporizes Tyler's skin. Even after the metal is removed, the tissue continues to burn.
Okay. Something tells me we're going to be taking a few breaks.
Branding is so torturous, Tyler is running the risk his body could go into shock. At the very least, his inflamed skin will remain susceptible to infection for days to come.
If you're getting a third-degree burn, if you don't take care of a third-degree burn, then, there's definitely a possibility for infection that obviously could spread.
Gradually, Tyler grows accustomed to the pain, and he is able to lay still and watch Brian finish.
That scars, hopefully it's going to look decent.
In all, the process has taken 5 hours. And despite the torment, Tyler is content with his accomplishment. He didn't quit. And he's gotten another unique mark to signal his identity.
It hurt really bad, but what just made it all the more worse was the smell of it and hearing my skin pop. I know there's going to be mixed reactions. There's going to be people calling me nuts, but that's kind of the beauty of modification, is because you get to be able to see who actually looks into people. Really, it doesn't really matter what you look like. It shouldn't matter at all.
At the other end of the country, another city has become a center for marking the body in extreme ways.
You all set?
Yep. Excellent.
In Phoenix, Arizona, when dedicated body modifiers want really tough work done, like matching nose piercings, they come to John Durante.
Go slow. Feels so good.
At 29, John has already lived and worked in more than half a dozen U.S. cities.
There we go.
Yet in each, he's found a community of body modifiers ready to welcome him.
Awesome.
In just the past 18 months, John has been branded not once, but twice. This afternoon, he's going to get branded a third time.
This is my passion, piercing and other forms of modification that I specialize in. This is a great deal of what I live for. It's art. It's art on the human body.
Thank you, Renzo.
For his art, John likes to draw on both the traditional and the modern. He has traveled extensively through Southeast Asia, and he has tried to reflect the tattooing and piercing of those cultures in his own designs. To the solid black tattoo on his right arm, inspired by a trip to Borneo, John is slowly adding an ultra-modern twist, branded bands of triangles. For each brand, John has relied on a well-known pioneer of body modification, Steve Hayworth. Hayworth is famous for the implants he's placed under the skin of hundreds of clients, all seeking to stay on the edge of the body mod culture. Steve has also developed his own branding method. It works not with heat, but with jolts of electricity.
When you do branding, I think it smells like when you're at the dentist when they're drilling on your teeth. So it's definitely necessary that we vacuum that smell out of the house. We're doing the inside here first, please.
Steve calls his method electrocautery branding. The result is the same. The skin is burned away. But it feels eerily different.
This is being plugged into an electric machine, grounded out. You're completing the circuit. It feels like you're getting tattooed with a lightning bolt. It feels like you're getting electrocuted intentionally. It is an unnatural, unnerving, very uncomfortable sensation.
This is the largest brand John's gotten so far, and the most painful.
It's a lot of work.
Before his design is complete, he'll have to endure the trauma of Steve's branding machine for almost an hour.
You okay?
I'm okay.
All right.
Okay.
Great big deep breath in. Great big exhale.
It's a lot to take, even for a mark of identity.
There's a ritualistic element to the pain used in branding. Body modifiers are often quite proud of the fact that they can endure this kind of pain. To them, it signals that they're quite serious about what they're doing.
At the end, both John and Steve are completely drained.
So looks good.
Looks beautiful. Not really looking forward to the healing part, but that by far is the worst part. That is intense. Thank you, sir.
You did good.
But John's not done. Ultimately, he wants to have his entire arm branded. It may be that everyone who chooses to get a brand has a different reason. But what they all share is a willingness to go to extremes to modify their bodies. John and his friends understand that sets them apart from the mainstream. And some might argue they prefer it that way.
I don't look at horned implants or I don't look at split tongues. That makes me feel at home. You know, the absence of that would make me feel homesick. It's a freaky family.
One of the things that happens with your forms of scarification is you signal for all the world to know that in your body, you know you are outside the group. You decide to embrace with some pride or to signal to other outcasts who are also outside the group that you and they can band together and become their own group.
For body modifiers, brands are not just an extreme way to signify their status as social rebels. They're also keys to a separate and very elite club they can call their own. You may not want to have a brand get a full body tattoo, or wear brass rings that make your neck look longer. But when it comes to marking one's body, it's all relative. Should a pierced tongue be taboo when pierced ears are universally accepted? They both speak to a shared human need to adorn, mark, or alter our bodies, a trait that marks us all as human.